Adam Schiff was right all along about that. Joining us now is Congressman Adam Schiff, chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Sir, I really appreciate you being here. I know this is a really big night.
You bet.
Let me ask about that point that I was just making. You have been saying for months now that you didn't believe that Mueller and his team were looking at potential financial motivations, potential financial ties that might explain either compromise or any other element of the Russia scandal that would have ongoing implications for the country. My reading of this report tonight suggests that you're right. Do you think that that's the case?
I think that is the case. There's certainly no discussion in the report of whether he looked into those allegations. He did look at the effort to build a Moscow Trump Tower. That certainly was a form of financial entanglement and a deep conflict of interest by the president. But in terms of the issue of money laundering, there's no indication he looked at that unless that's part of the counterintelligence findings that he alluded to, and you mentioned that earlier, that he said was not going to be a part of this report. But I have to imagine, frankly, that Mueller did not follow the money in that respect. And that's very important for our committee as well as the Financial Services Committee to make sure there's no financial leverage or other leverage that the Russians or the Gulf or anyone else have over the President of the United States.
In terms of those counterintelligence findings, that was another thing that we didn't know heading into this in terms of how it would be structured and indeed what the Justice Department would allow to be released. It seems to me from what we're allowed to see in Mueller's findings today that there is a whole separate set of documentation related to things that were turned up in the investigation that inside the Justice Department, inside the special counsel's office, they decide handle separately from everything they reported today. And it's foreign intelligence information and it's counterintelligence information. Did you know that before seeing those references in the report today? And do you expect that you've already been briefed on some of that stuff, or will that be stuff that you're pursuing?
It will be stuff that we are pursuing. It really was my expectation that because this report was largely about a criminal investigation and the prosecutorial decisions we decided to prosecute here, we did not decide to prosecute there, it would be unlikely to go into all the counterintelligence findings. And Mueller, as you say, I think was pointing this out quite explicitly for Congress that, hey, if you want this foreign intelligence, counterintelligence information, it is there for the asking. And we made that request. And I'll tell you, Rachel, as you know from the last 2 years, there is not much that my ranking member, Mr. Nunes, and I agree upon. But we do agree upon this. The law requires the Department of Justice to provide that foreign intelligence and counterintelligence information to our committee. In fact, we did a bipartisan letter 2 weeks ago demanding all that information, and we're going to get it. There's, I think, no way for the department to avoid it, and I think that was a tip-off by the special counsel that we needed to pursue that lead.
You were one of 6 committee chairmen who have responded to the publication of this report tonight, expressing real concern about what was described here as the president's behavior. And obviously, the special counsel goes into great detail in the report as to how he approached the issue of whether specific allegations of criminal activity by the president could fairly be included in this type of report, given Justice Department policy that says a president can't be indicted. The way I read that, the way that I think that the special counsel's office spelled out their findings here is I feel like they have provided a roadmap to Congress, or alternately to any prosecutors who may still have jurisdiction and may be operating outside within the statute of limitations with the president once he's no longer president, that the president could be charged for obstruction of justice on any number of these activities that are described here in such detail. That's how I see it just as a layman. I know you're a former prosecutor. I know you're a powerful committee chairman right now. Is that how you receive it?
It is. I think it's pretty clear and contrary to what the Attorney General was trying to spin in his memo and during his press conference, but the special counsel intended to leave that question to Congress. Special counsel felt bound by those OLC opinions that he could not indict a sitting president and wanted to preserve that evidence for Congress. And frankly, I think until we see all of that, including the grand jury material, we take nothing off the table. I view us as right now in the position of preliminary to a judicial proceeding. It cannot be the position of the Justice Department, hey, we're not going to give you evidence, grand jury material, as to a president who may have violated the law and allow you to determine whether an impeachment is warranted on the one hand, and on the other hand, we believe we can't indict the president. That's effectively immunity. And one thing that Bob Mueller made clear is he does not believe this president or anyone else is above the law. So we need to get all of the unredacted, we need to get all the redacted material. We need to get all the intelligence and foreign intelligence information from Bob Mueller, from the Justice Department, these underlying documents, so we can make an informed judgment. But yes, I think Mueller intended that for Congress to oversee and investigate.
Briefly, sir, do you anticipate you'll be speaking with Robert Mueller soon? Do you anticipate that he'll be testifying in intelligence in short order? We've heard Congressman Nadler ask for him to testify before the Judiciary Committee before the end of May. What's your anticipation in terms of your committee?
Same expectation, and I think as much of that testimony ought to be public testimony, perhaps all of it in the Judiciary Committee and perhaps a bifurcated hearing in the Intelligence Committee. We want to make sure that the Department of Justice doesn't hide behind the Gang of Eight or anything else to try to prevent the American people from seeing this evidence, because it is damning. At the end of the day, when you read this lengthy report, you learn that the president has repeatedly misled the country. He's urged others to mislead the country. He's tried to dangle rewards behind those that toe his line, even if it's at odds with the fact. He's tried to insinuate he would punish those who go against him. There were countless contacts between the Trump people and the Russians that they sought to conceal and lie about. All of this is damning, and we all ought to, I think, expect more from our president than merely the protestation that he's not a crook.
Congressman Adam Schiff, chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Sir, I know your time is at a premium.